today we want to talk about three other concepts that are more happening inside of you, because let's talk about your monologue, your reading, right? Let's talk about your performance. Because the audition, yes, there is a mental aspect to it for sure. Nervosity, stage fright, distractions, focus. There is a lot of, feelings, we are involved with the material. It's personal, but if we set out, like I said, with an intention of respecting certain vectors, of having a clear vision of what you want to say and where pretty much you want to say it and what it means to you, what your intention is. Of course, you can always kind of deviate a little bit, from the momentum, but in the end, it's having also three distinct places during your monologue, during your stream, where you can always rely on and say, hey, this I know I own. And I want to spare you like the idea is like, yeah, you have to start strong and finish strong, all this stuff. It's more about what is your most honest, most truthful, most interesting, most compelling, most crazy behavior. What is interesting, messy, and compelling and remarkable about you? This is how you kind of decode the information that art is giving you, that the muses are giving you, that your inspiration is giving you. And look at all these people today. This is beautiful. Someone in Malaysia, kind of decodes this in one way, based on his culture, on his environment, his social status, his friends, and all that. Someone in the UK looks at this from a completely different angle. Someone kind of approaches this like, I estimate, more left brain and analytic and tries to rationally break it down. Some other people, like Elise, might come in emotionally, look at this, what does it give me in terms of inspiration and drive and passion? That's the beauty of art. Everybody has his take. Everybody has its own dimension, his own perspective, his own way of doing it, right? His own style of telling the story. That's all fine. But when we're talking about style, we need style. We need to be recognizable. And that needs to be worked on. We have to understand that there is a way of preparing our canvas, priming our material, choosing our brushes, choosing our colors, knowing what these colors, what these brushes, what these instruments mean to us. And we can only explore their meaning by repeating them, by expressing them, by exercising them. So the one goes with the other. And look at this. I always believe there are no coincidences, right? There is no such thing as a coincidence. The universe is perfect. In Greek mythology, it is said that the first wife of Zeus, she was Metis, and Metis was, she was the child of two titans. She was a demigod, but child of two titans. So she was the god of skill and wisdom. And out of that marriage, out of that bond, we got three, the three fates. One fate was spinning. She was called Metis, and she was the elater, right? She was spinning it. And then Lachesis was measuring it, and Atropos was cutting it. So every life is part of the woven fabric of the universe. Every life has its measurement, its range, its rule, and every life will come to an end. We have those, Trinity concepts all over the place. And they're very important to also respect and to take into our exercises, to actively, consciously integrate them into our workflow and the way we express ourselves. Because if there are some certain universal laws, let's take them in. If there is something that you will always find in art, like a symbology, a numerical value, a certain type of depiction, motifs, topics, metaphors, tropes, if they're all coming back, if they're all part of the classic fabric, it's because they're weaving into this huge cloth that we're part of. So every life is one thread that adds to the story of the universe. Does that make sense? So therefore, every life has its own story, its own grade, its own value, and its own beauty. And it's worth telling. So let's get the anxiety and the nervosity and the fright and all that. Let's get rid of that. It doesn't really exist. It's because every story is worth telling. So if we embrace that concept, my story is worth telling. Do I need to exercise? Do I need to practice? Yes, because if I really find my story valuable, then of course I will practice. It's not a matter of, oh, can I find time? Or I'm a bit like of a procrastinator, or I'm doing too much of this or too. Guys, I've went through this process, believe me. I grew up on the street with graffiti, with hip hop music, with jamming and freestyling and hanging out till like 4 o'clock in the morning in, you know, in graffiti halls and drawing and creating art. That is all beautiful. But in the end, you know, if you really cherish something so much, if you have the desire of putting that out there, you need to work to solidify it. There is no way of just doing that out of your comfortable position. And you will find the purpose of just getting up and saying, hey guys, I love you. I love all this. I love hanging out with you. Believe me, my wife met me when I was in that transitioning phase of letting go of my, you know, of my old compartment, of my old department of life, where, you know, everything was kind of way less organized, way more confusing, absolutely chaotic. Yes, fun, but not fruitful, not effective. I wasn't really using my potential. And using potential comes from repetition. This is what Master Bruce Lee always says and advises us to do. So if you want to become great, successful, beautiful actors, you have to exercise it like an athlete does, right? That's our canvas. That's our work canvas. And now let's dive into how can we put this into the audition process? Because in the end, there is something about the casting call, and the number 8, like I'm saying, is also no coincidence, because this is the 8th month we're doing this, and we have the Chinese year of the dragon. And in Chinese mythology and astrology, the number 8 brings together the dragon. It is actually the number of the dragon. It's also the number of infinity. It's the Moebius loop, or the Moebius knot, which is also a very scary and frightening concept if you think about, because it means that you are kind of, you know, you are caged in that loop. It will never end. It's the Moebius loop. It's that, you know, horizontally displayed number 8, that figure 8 that kind of lays on its back, which is a concept that we know that things are always coming back. And we also trapped a little bit in this loop, but we know also what's coming, and therefore we can predict the future a little bit better by really improving on ourselves.
Can I just ask something?
Sure.
You know that you said it's the infinite loop or something. Is that like the snake as well? Like
Yes.
when the snake eats itself. Is that the
Yes.
same thing?
It
Or
is.
not?
Yes, it is. Actually, and there are occult teachings where the number 8 is associated also with, you know, darker aspects of magic and dark practices, right? So it has also its negative connotation. But I think that the dragon tells us like a very powerful story, that in the end there is a certain freedom in knowing that, hey, this is my story. It will end in a certain way because, you know, it will end. But till then, I have all the time in the world. There are no excuses to express on that canvas, on that behavioral canvas, everything that I want, period, right? It's my choice. It's my accountability. It's my responsibility to be that artist, to be that painter, to let go of that whatever negative barrier you think is stronger than you actually are, because we're just underestimating our potential, our force, our beauty, our elegance. So I want to show you something, because I'm obsessed about doodles over here at the COACHMC studio. And by the way, of course, you're more than welcome to stop by at our channel and subscribe and smash the like button, you know, under every video. But we have a video section that is happening every Tuesday and every Thursday. Tuesdays on 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On Thursday, it's 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is called the Open Class Doodle. Because like I said, I was coming from like a street writer, street artist type of background. So to me, graffiti and drawing and sketching and painting and always having something to express, you know, creatively and visually what I was thinking was part of growing up. So I integrated that also in the way we help people here at the COACHMC studio with their creativity, with, you know, stepping up their game, with incentivizing what they're good at, and kind of, you know, maximizing their impact, basically. Every impact, every creative impact. If we're talking about public speaking or acting or communicating, or even drawing, or, you know, whatever it is that your creative mind craves to improve, we pretty much can help you with our tools. And one of these tools is the doodle. I love to doodle, I love to sketch, and to make things visually so it's understandable, so you can break it down, so your left brain and your right brain starts to interact. There are many good, you know, healthy reasons why we should interact with ourselves as well, visually, or, you know, lyrically, orally, in a way you deem necessary or good and effective. But drawing down stuff and having a journal and writing down stuff is one of a hell like method to kind of, you know, keep yourself updated with yourself. So here we are, and what I've tried to capture here is, I love quotes, because quotes give me a direction. I can think about the person. Quotes give me wisdom, and it's not always me preaching, right? So therefore, it's also a great excuse to blame it on the other person. No, but sincerely, like, I love quotes because they don't involve ego. And so therefore, I'm borrowing something from a master and presenting that, and let's have a conversation about that. And I wanted to capture this moment with the great Stanislavski. And if you're not familiar with Stanislavski, he basically is the inventor of modern acting, and he kind of transmitted a lot of his knowledge to Stella Adler. He highly influenced Elia Kazan, Marlon Brando, Jimmy Dean. I mean, the new age of theater that we experienced in the 50s, especially on the East Coast in New York, that kind of sparked the whole glamorous era that came later in the 60s and 70s. That was also part because of people like Stanislavski, Stella Adler, Elia Kazan, Lee Strasberg. So we're talking about one of the inventors of acting, one of who really inspired. And everybody thought that Stanislavski, Stella Adler actually asked him that, is like, hey, what's your method, Stanislavski? You know, what is your value proposition? And Stanislavski just, you know, said to Stella Adler, who's one of the, of course, most famed and, you know, legendary acting schools, Stella Adler, whether it's in New York or in LA. And he replied to her, let me also know if you can read this all well and see this all well. I have no method. I just do everything I have to do to get what I want and what I need out of an actor. Right? It's actually that easy. Does this make sense? Does this resonate with you? Because there is no method. Everybody has a certain way of doing it. There is no acting highway that you have to kind of, you know, travel down and then that's it. There is practice, and through you know, kind of repeating and doing and making everything necessary in order to, you know, intensify your practice, you learn and kind of, you know, and from that you will grow and grow. But this is your way of expressing it. There is no method. You just do everything you have to do in order to get what you want and you need out of that character. Behave naturally. And always ask yourself when you are, you know, behaving naturally, because of course that is like a great concept, right? Oh yeah, just behave naturally, my friend. Is it like, yeah, but what does that mean? It means this when you're looking at yourself and experiencing yourself, right? Because sometimes we have that type of outer vision. Sometimes we can record it also. Is this truthful? Like I'm saying it. Is this authentic? Is this original? Can I work with this? Is this behavior? Right? Because when it's behavior, then it has a taste and a pulse, right? It has a pulse. You can feel its rhythm. There is something about it. It's yours. Now you're finally getting it. Now you're finally getting more and more control. Don't stop there, though. Go further. Do it again. Do it again. Get more and more control, right? Be like a vampire in a positive sense. Like drain out what you can get out of that momentum, out of that beat, right? Out of that rhythm that drives you. Now you're catching on to something that works. Insist on that. Oh, but I can't explain what it doesn't matter. Who can explain anything on this planet? I can't explain anything. Nobody can. Like, we can get an idea, like a sense of what's really going on in the universe. But it's not about really being able to explain it. And even if we are able to explain, does this mean that this is necessarily the truth? I don't think so. Because bad people have explained a lot of logical things to us, right? That made a lot of sense, right? That were kind of sounding completely reasonable. And in the end, they turned out to be the pure horror, right? So therefore, and it's happened through history all along, right? I'm not referring to something specific right now. It's really happening. Like, open up a history book. There's a lot of common sense, a lot of logic behind every war. Therefore, is the war the right answer? Not always, I would say, right? Probably never. So therefore, because something makes sense and you can explain it to yourself, it doesn't mean that it's entertaining. As an actor, we should go there where it's probably not making sense, where it's not explainable, where not everything happens for a reason. And that is truthful, authentic, original, and poetic sometimes. I added poetic because I want to stop this really quick. It's poetic because we need to be poetic, guys, because actors are the healers of the hearts. We have a mission. I firmly believe that. This, this thing about acting is you can't be a world-class actor if you don't have a phenomenal consistency and determination. And why should you have such a determination for something that is so hard to achieve, where everything is filled with no's and rejections and pushbacks and arrogant behavior? Why should you, why should you looking out for, this type of world? Because you know that once you're there and you do what you're supposed to do and you show what you're capable of, no holds barred, that people will be healed through you, that people will be entertained through you. And what is entertaining? It's a good laugh. It's sometimes also to feel sorrowness. It's a reflection. And what does that? That, creates injections of dopamine and of all other neurochemicals that the system needs in order to feel relaxed, entertained, and good. So what are we doing? We are healing hearts. Yes, while entertaining them, because a good laughter is the best thing that it can happen to you. Or like good entertainment is like, hey, this was full of purpose, but it was still fun. I'm not saying to not be fun. I'm not saying, oh, no, it should be just intellect. No, I'm saying, there can be both. It doesn't need to be polarized, right? There can be fulfillment, and at the same time, it can be also enjoyable. So when we look at this, and here we have Willem Dafoe. I'm sorry, he turned a little bit like, he turned out to be like Jack Nicholson in the Joker, like as the Joker in Batman. I'm sorry, Willem. He's a fantastic actor, one of my favorite actors, absolutely legend, fantastic. Pretty much in every role. It's frightening. I mean, study the masters, right? Go through his filmography. I mean, this is 40 years of consistent, like he was already in Platoon with Oliver Stone. And even before that, he was already like this. It's incredible the amount of movies he shot and always very impressive performances. Now, if you want to, have that in your toolbox to have impressive performances like that every time you get called to action, like look at his filmography. And I literally mean that. Like every day of the week, try to make it happen. I mean, you will sit on your couch for 2 hours anyways, right? At this point, check out a William Dafoe movie every night and write down what is the consequence of his greatness. Like, where does his greatness come from? Like, what is he doing? Like, try to analyze it, implement it into your, I'm not necessarily William Dafoe, excuse me, right? This is what I would do, but you can of course pick your favorite actor and say, okay, and what does William Dafoe, one of the greatest in the game, say? No one gives a shit about the process. There is no uniform way of acting. Everybody's different, every film, every play, and part of the job is to find and do the appropriate process for the appropriate role. Do you recognize a pattern here, guys? So Stanislavski, the inventor of acting, basically says, behave naturally, for God's sake. There is no method. There's just everything that you have to do to get what you want and need as the character, or what he says out of the actor. And when you practice that, ask yourself, is this poetic as well? Because that's the color that we want to give. We don't just want to, replicate text. We want to animate lines. We want to inspire the lines. We want to give them something that just belongs to us, and be completely, open about it and disclose it in everybody's face. And here we have William Dafoe saying it, hey, no one gives a shit about the process. There is no uniform way of acting. Everybody's different. Every film, everybody. So do we have complete liberty here? What does this mean? Does this mean that there are no rules? Yes, and most definitely no. It's always both. It's always structure, chaos, and then structure again. This is also the trinity of, of creation. People believe that in the beginning there was chaos, but I don't think so. This chaos narrative comes from the Big Bang Theory. This is mostly debunked, but besides being debunked or no, we can argue scientifically about it for years and we still wouldn't know. But besides being that true or not, science has this very, they are telling us basically that everything is a coincidence. And that's a very easy way for not explaining 99% of the critical mass out there that is unexplainable, right? Because a lot of stuff in the universe doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And in order to explain that, they say, yeah, everything is a coincidence, but that doesn't explain everything. You can formulate it mathematically, but again, just by being able to explain it, like we said at the beginning, it doesn't mean that it's true. You see what I'm getting at? I don't want to talk about, how NASA explains space, right? This is not the topic of the concept. But if you see something so pompous and majestic as academia or such, agencies like NASA not really being able to explain what the universe actually is and trying to normalize it with mathematical formulas, which, yeah, okay, on paper now, somehow, according to your graduation value and vectors, right, it makes sense, but it doesn't mean that you've explained me the truth. And this is what we want to see, though. So it means that there is everything here that you see in the body in the universe is design. It is everywhere. I mean, it's blatantly obvious. Everything is designed. Like you have Fibonacci, golden ratios, and golden pockets everywhere, all over the place. Our own body, the Vitruvian Man by Leonardo da Vinci, what is that? It's just the expression of a mathematical concept. It's 1.618003669, right? It's happening all over. So, and you see these Fibonacci spirals everywhere, macro, and also in the micro levels. The way a cell is built up in our body, we have trillions of cells in our body. You can wrap them up millions of times around planet Earth, actually 5 million times. Our cells in each body of every human being, you can wrap them up 5 million times around planet Earth. If you don't tell me that this is designed, I don't know what it is. So there is structure before chaos. It's not that I'm saying that chaos is not necessary. It is necessary. It is where we're getting most creative impulses from. But we first have to set up a structure for ourselves in order to receive those messages. It's like an antenna that I'm inviting you to build more than anything else. My tools today, my instruments, what I'm proposing today, you might take a little thing out of it. You might take nothing out of it. You might say this is all garbage, or maybe use everything out of it. Doesn't matter. It's what you get with your fine sensors, with your antenna, with your internal receiver, is what you get out of it and say, okay, I'm going to take this notion. This sounds pretty plausible for that circumstance. And you go with it. Fine. This is how I want you to see creativity. It happens because we are all part of this ether. Everybody is having already success. just, you know, not everybody's known. That is something else. And we see it here. I mean, if there is a better quote, probably not, because Martin Luther King Jr. said, not everybody can be famous, but everybody can be great, because greatness is determined by service. And guys, not everybody can be famous, but everybody can be great, because greatness is determined by service. This is like a true talk here before we get into the nitty-gritty of the technical aspects of what I'm proposing today for the audition process, like specifically, but also to explore text, because I work a lot also with musicians, with songwriters. We recorded just a beautiful episode of the Open Class Doodles with Wyatt, who has a heavy metal, like a dark heavy metal band in Long Beach, California. And we talked about the beautiful aspects of songwriting, metaphors, images, illustrations, and all that, right? And the thing that I'm proposing today is just to, you know, kind of understand that if you really love this and you practice it, the universe will pay you back. Famous, you know, being famous, I've achieved famous, you know, yeah, being famous, I probably achieved that in a couple of countries, but it's you know, and it changes you also a little bit, and then you kind of come back to your senses, or you have the most incredible person on planet Earth, that is my wife, and she saves you out of the madness, and kind of it's like, don't worry, I got you covered, right? You don't need to play with the devil anymore. But you will find your peace with yourself and with that, whatever that means, being famous. I believe that we are like famous already. Like Alicia is famous, Kimberly is famous, Jasmine is famous, Ben. We are all famous today because we're coming in and we're preaching the good gospel. We want to improve. We want to learn something. We want to get new keys. We want to explore new rooms inside of ourselves. We want to kind of enrich in this temple, make sure that this temple shines, right? And so therefore, this is already being famous. To have this privilege, this opportunity is tremendous. How many people do that? Like on a Saturday, doing something like this. That is already the recipe. That is already showing me we are famous people here. Now, does it mean we need to be on the cover of a magazine? If that is part as a product of your initial work, why not? Nothing bad about it, but it needs to be the product, not the goal. Does that make sense? Because that's really important, because this is what Martin Luther here meant, right? It's of course famous, like, yeah, people can know you, but everybody can be great, because by, you know, if you're really determined by that service, by healing hearts, by giving good entertainment, by finding something magnificent about this audition, about what you're saying, this is how we build legacy. Here we have Christine Rhee. She's from the Terry Knickerbocker studio. And Terry Knickerbocker, his studio in New York, Brooklyn, is beautiful. We have a show on our YouTube channel. It's called Talks on Acting. Beautiful show. I'd advise you also to check it out. We talk with a lot of acting coaches there, with a lot of other actors. We're having the show now for years. It's a beautiful opportunity also to learn new methods, new techniques, and we have several people from all over the place talking. And we interviewed Terry Knickerbocker, and so his school is a beautiful place. He is Sam Rockwell's personal coach and acting coach for over 2 decades now. And she says, no human is perfect, right? If you're trying to be perfect, you aren't making space for your own humanity. You are suppressing your own humanity. And acting has everything to do with humanity. There is no acting, there is no enjoyment if you're not human. And so therefore, to allow that poetic, you know, miserable, despicable, devious, funny, crazy, chaotic being to come to life. And yes, it's true, you need the skin of a rhino in order to survive. Yes, a successful actor, I believe, has the skin of a rhino and the heart of a kid. This is how you survive and thrive, how you have fulfillment and joy, how you have purpose and efficiency. Does that make sense? Because you need both. You need both in order to be successful in entertainment industry. I've been in entertainment industry now for over 25 years. You need both, believe me. You need a thicker skin. People, yeah, sometimes they will judge you. Sometimes they will treat you badly. Sometimes they're distracted. Sometimes don't take it personal. Casting directors, they are going through a process of choosing, you know, through hundreds of people. They want to give everybody, you know, a fair shot. So it's so much, you know, importance, responsibility, and work. And sometimes they look and appear to be like a bit distracted or whatever, but that's not because they are necessarily arrogant or bad people. It's just, you know, that they are, you know, there's a lot of work. They're a bit tired. That's okay. So give them something to look at. You know, if you know that by now, you know, give them some. If you feel that energy, break the room. You know, break the room with your own creative value proposition. Is like, you don't want to deliver in a room that is freezing, right? You want to deliver in a room that is vibrant, that is fun. So if you need to break the ice a little bit, do that. I'm trying to go through the chat right now and just reading if you guys have anything. Here, I found a quote on Instagram, believe it or not. Instagram is good for something, but I couldn't, like, it was like a strange account. And so, but I love the quote. So it's simple. Do whatever the piece is asking of you, self-tape or audition. Of course, modify for the frame, but be and do whatever the piece is asking of you. I think that's a marvelous quote. Thank you, Instagram, for being out there. And also to this, if you're seeing this and you're the creator and you're the originator of this beautiful quote, please contact us. We would definitely feature you. Bob De Niro, be true to your character. And here's something from a completely different angle. This is Jim Rohn, marketing expert. He kind of, he's the philosopher of the new American economy. One of the philosophers, like Earl Nightingale, like Napoleon Hill, like Dale Carnegie, right? So Jim Rohn said, if the why is powerful, the how is easy. Interesting, right? So I want to show you something else. No, please, if you have anything, let me see. Can you see all this? Yeah, I should see it. Okay. So what is a monologue? What is an audition? What is the scene? So what I've drawn here is, it's like if I would try to give you, and of course you can copy this if you want. If I would try to give you like a visual idea of what happens, right, in those 3 to 5 minutes in the audition room. Or whenever you're, you know, for what it's worth, I mean, maybe somebody wants to just apply this like, okay, it's not about an audition, maybe it's about a presentation. Maybe it's about like a pinpoint presentation in front of the, you know, the board of directors. Maybe it's like pitching a product or a movie to producer. Maybe it's, you know, something that I'm working on for myself, like a monologue for my show, whatever it is, right? A monologue is a stream. And usually streams, rivers, they are originating in the mountains. And that's interesting because the mountain, and like in philosophy and literature, right? The mountain is also a metaphor for our mind, because the mountain represents willpower. It represents force, determination. And so in our mind, there is this original thought about a situation, about a circumstance in our life, about something tragic that is happening, about a message that you got, a letter that you read, whatever it is, a thought is popping up in your mind. And that thought kind of connects with an emotion. immediately because it's something strong we're talking about. And so in our mind, there is this thing boiling up. And we ask ourselves most of the times, as the character, like, to establish the emotional core, the moment before, we have to ask ourselves as the character, do we want more of this, or do we have enough? Or maybe the other way around, use it as an affirmation. I have enough and I don't want more of this. And so I have to change something, because this is usually what an audition is for. That means in an audition, what do we establish? If the character really kind of, pursues his dreams, what his goals, his desires, and therefore the character has to ask himself, like, I have enough of this, right? I don't want any more of this. And this is how the scene starts. This is how the stream kind of finally comes together. The rain kind of, fills up the canals of the mountains. And now we have, this whole thing is running. And I kind of, here I have to chat. Well, I should close this. I'm sorry for all these intrusions here, visually wise. Okay. Yeah, so now it's clean. So this phase, when thought and emotion are coming together, when we finally know as the character what we need and what we want, right? Because now it's connecting. And the moment before gives us, we have another Zoom user here coming in. This is the gold phase. So water, this is how gold is mostly defined in those mountains, right? There's a lot of sedimentation, a lot of ramification going on from the river, from the water. Now it streams. This is our monologue. And like in the first audition tips video, to me, everything happens in a three-folded pattern. Like if you look at music, if you look at videos, if you look at symbols, right? Everything, pyramids, everything happens in a three-folded pattern. So in the monologue, we have the initial moment, we have our intro. That's a big emotional island. Like we are frustrated, or we are happy, or we are destroyed, or we are melancholic, whatever it is. That's our first emotional island. Usually our characters are broken, looking for something, hungry, and they are starting their quest. In the middle, we have the apex. That's, like every good play in theater also happens in 3 or 5 acts. You need 3 beats to make a hit. So there is something about this three-folded pattern that we can always recognize. And in the room, we have a chair, we have a window, we have a door. In the text, we have the emotional core that happens before. We know why we're doing this, what we want and what we need. We have enough of the situation. We won't get it anymore, or we want more and more, and we have to fight for it. Even that is, of course, possible. So what is my core intention here, right? And which mask am I probably using to kind of camouflage my intentions? Because, this is usually happening with our characters. And then the monologue comes to the apex of confrontation, of conflict, of where everything clashes, where you have the highest amplitude of, of kind of exchange, right? This is the red phase, I would say, the very passionate, right? And I'm saying this here with the 2 streams is because in that passionate phase, in that apex, there we show what our core, we show our subtext, right? There, it is important to know exactly what we're talking about on a core level, what these lines really mean to us. Like what is our intention here? What is it that we're really trying to convey? Because as human beings, guys, we never say what we really feel. Never, ever, ever. So don't try to superimpose some sort of no, I have to be perfect as an actor in order to be interesting. No. It means that when we're acting, we actually want to see that imperfection. We want to see that humanity, like we were saying before, happening and going on. So on the highest of frequency, on the highest of intention and urgency, right? Of course, what happens is that we are sometimes also risking to lose a little bit of control, and where we need to improvise and kind of, maybe even catch it, but that's okay. The casting director, he doesn't want to see you being perfect. He doesn't want you to have that flawless delivery. He doesn't want you to control all operation. He wants to see how you catch it, how you deal with things. That's way more important to him because he's a pro. He already assesses you. If you're in the room, you have to understand, you're famous already. That's already a success. If you're in the room auditioning, or if they're asking for a self-tape, that already means that for them, you could be already part of the movie. Now they want to assess other things. Maybe sometimes the actor has this misconception going on that he feels like, oh, no, I have to be, freaking perfect on this one, right? I have to impress them. Yes, sure. I mean, a great performance is a great performance always and everywhere. But, understand the context of an audition. Like I said, they're watching hundreds of tapes, right? They're watching hundreds of actors. They're reaching out to literally dozens and dozens of agencies, and those agencies are sending in a lot of, it's like, okay, propose to this actor and this actor and this actress. I know it sounds a bit frustrating, but it's actually not, right? Because, you could be in there in one of those folders. So he has to go through a lot of material, and he doesn't want to necessarily see right away that you are offering like a stellar performance. If you get considered for a project, if your agent is already sending in material, if you are already being called to the casting process, that means that, with one foot, you're already in the production. Because for them, you could be like, they are kind of regarding you already like as a potential candidate for the role. That means that for them, you are good. For them, you are already like industry level. You don't have to worry about, like showing them how good you are or impressing them necessarily, or like add a lot of stuff that is not really the value proposition of the audition, that has nothing really to do. Is like added and added and added on top, right? Because you wanted to impress them. Because again, that's your ego. It's not you. Just stick to what's there and do the really and deliver what's necessary more than I have to, deliver my absolutely best performance. Because sometimes that is also, perfect align syndrome. Yeah, I know I'm not going to send in this audition. And I've experienced this myself many, many times. Believe me, guys, it's not something that I, oh, no. We've all been, kind of caught by the ego trap. Believe me, everybody has already kind of, been fallen into that ego trap. It's totally fine. Just recognize it, right? Sometimes we have that false excuse to say, no, I'm not going to send an audition. I'm not going into the audition call because I'm not perfectly, prepared. That's nonsense, right? That's perfect alignment syndrome. You're excusing yourself through this back door instead of showing yourself, right? And see and deal with the consequences. So next time you prepare better. Assess that. And I've been through this like many times. It's like, yeah, nah, this is not good enough. Try find excuses. And then maybe at the end you kind of delivered something a bit more pretentious and fast, because by the end of the deadline you realize, no, you want to do it, and then you send it in too late, and then you do it fast and sloppy, and then it's absolutely not your quality level. So avoid all that nonsense. Every event is an event. There is not negative or positive. It's an event. So deal with it, right? Sometimes the countermeasures are harder. Sometimes it's easier, but it's just an event. So every audition is a beautiful, special event, a privilege. You're already considered a pro. You're already considered to be part of the game. You're already considered to be, somehow kind of, your expertise to be on a required level, on an adequate level. So you don't have to worry about that. Now worry about delivering something necessary. What the casting director is looking for is, are you a team player? Are you a good person? Are you interesting? Like, they already know the standard stuff. They want to look for the more specific things and want to go into a bit more more like granular aspects of your character, like assessing if you're good under stress. Maybe sometimes when you think, oh, the casting director is treating me badly today, oh, it's not fair, maybe that was just a test, because he knows exactly that the director who's casting this movie is a badass and will treat you badly on set and will kind of push you hard through the scenes and works a lot of hours. And so therefore he wants to kind of stress test your nerves a little bit before you enter production, because maybe if you enter such a production, you will kind of, will have a lot of, problems adjusting. So he wants to find, assess beforehand, like if you would be ready to take on such a task. So you never know for what type of reason casting directors and all these people are asking you or pressuring you or doing the things that you do. Just assume that there's a good reason for it. And if you're really, really worried about whatever is, they're asking you, maybe just ask, right? It's nothing bad. If you want to clarify a situation, an indication, an assignment, an adjustment, a direction, whatever it is that you're getting, right, from whether the reader is like, and you don't really understand it. I mean, before you play it in a way where it's also not understandable for the others, maybe you want to assess before if you got it right, right? It's just like, hey, am I really understanding right what you're saying, what you're telling me here? You want the character to act this and this way? Can you tell me why? It's like, yeah, sure. And then maybe there's an explanation that the casting director deemed unnecessary to disclose beforehand because he thought, all right, there was common knowledge anyway. Maybe it wasn't. And so he realizes, oh, okay, of course, you missed a very, very crucial piece of information. So now I'm happy to deliver it. And so there's already like a conversation going on. So there's nothing bad about asking questions. If you just ask them in an adequate way, there is nothing absolutely bad about it. And even if you think it's a stupid question, there are no stupid questions. The answers sometimes are stupid. The question is never stupid, right? Just the answer sometimes is. Because when you don't know, what should you do if you won't ask, right? You have to go with what's doable for you, because that's how you show also that you're a professional, that you really know what you're talking about. Because if you ask, then the people understand, okay, there is someone who cares about the value proposition, right? It's not just, yeah, sure, I can give you, no problem, I can give it to you, sure, yeah. And then you haven't understood what you're talking about. And then you deliver a mediocre sentence, and we know that mediocrity is death of great art. So we don't want mediocrity in the casting director's office happening. I'm still trying to figure out a way how to. Today something happened with my Zoom, and I'm sharing my whole desktop, I guess, guys, right? And you're seeing all this private stuff, and I want to spare you that, and I want to understand how I can, maybe by doing it like this. Let me know if that's like, is that sharing everything to you? Okay. So what is a monologue? A monologue is, it starts with a thought. We crossbreed it with it. There's an emotion attached to that thought. We start to speak because there is something important that needs to be cleared. And we have this stream of words. That's why it's called, surfing the internet. What are we surfing? The stream of information. Where is the stream of information coming from? Well, of course, it's the stream of our words. These are our monologues. And then when we have 3 clear, specific, granular, emotional islands, right? This is left brain analysis. They are clear, they are specific and granular. We have a starting point, an emotional core where we're coming from. We have our apex, right, in the middle. We spot those emotional islands in the text, and we have our redemption. In the end, this is how every great song, how every great catharsis, hero's journey, script actually work, right? We need redemption in the end, transformation, because the audition reflects the most important moment in the life of the character. And so here, what I love to do, again, forgive me sometimes, but I always try to give more meaning and more information to the words, and also associate the things with other aspects of knowledge, and not only take like a cultural type of approach to the acting game. To me, acting is art, and I like to get in tune and with the art as much as I can. So when I look at this, specific preposition, this what I've drawn here, like to have 3 emotional islands, to have 3 acts of the play, like in any great song, in any great music play, in any great also classical theater play. And I think of the trinity of the Indians, right, of the Indian culture, that tells me that there's Brahma. In the beginning, Brahma just opened his eyes. Brahma was the initial thought, and the universe came into light. That is our initial thought. That is the will to come to life, the will to express, the will to say something important. Now is enough. Now I want more. And there was a moment before, but I'm not getting it anymore. Now it's time to proceed. And so we give rhythm to our speech. We have beats, right, that kind of bring us forward on the stream that flows down. And then we have these intense emotions, these urgent wishes, right? That's something vital, because that is the right side of the brain, the right hemisphere. The left brain assesses clearly, hey, what is granular, what is specific about these emotional lines? Why do they happen? Where are they coming from? And all that. But when we play them, when we actually play them out in the moment, in the audition, or for the self-tape recording, then what's important is that we give them the right urgency, the right vitality. They need to be animated. They need to be intense. And this is the same thing like in the Indian Trinity. Brahma gives that initial thought. He lets world come into life. Shiva destroys everything. So we have the passion, we have the redness, the aggression, right? We have, of course, the crumbling of forces. And then Vishnu resurrects everything. He's the redeemer. He's redemption. He's the water. And so this is the flow of life. This is the flow of the universe. This is the flow of the monologue. And this is also the flow of your audition. Because in the end, what we want as the character is that catharsis, that redemption. And this is how we go through an Indian Trinity. And this is how we go through in the structure of every song, of every tale, of every hero's journey as well. Redemption. Well, it's not a German. It's a good question. A redemption. Eine Katharsis. Eine Katharsis, but that's like a Greek. It's a Greek term, but it's also used in German language. We would probably in German say Katharsis, eine Heilung, a healing. If you want to call it healing, you still can call it so. Why am I sharing this blueprint? Because this is stripping you off of any, thought of, oh, I need to deliver this. I need to be perfect, or, oh, I'm afraid of not delivering enough. No, just focus on what is my emotional core here? Where am I coming from? Why do I have enough of what's happening? And assessing that, assessing the structure, going into destroying everything that was before, because we're always changing the status quo in the scene. It's always the most crucial moment in our lives. And we're always healing from a process. Therefore, we have to flip the paradigm. We have to revolt against the forces. We need to clash with the coexisting belief, with the existing belief system, and turn it into our belief system. As the character, there is a subject to our mission, and we need to fulfill that. And then we come to healing, or we maybe fail. Look at Rocky. Look at Empire Strikes Back. There are many great movies where actually the main character fails, and it doesn't matter because we still understand the redemption. It's not about creating a happy end. It's about creating compelling life. And that is what we want to see in every audition. And if you deliver that, believe me, you will leave a mark, because you're doing something unique, because you're approaching this with your style. And this is what I'm proposing to you guys, to be recognizable when you go in there, and to search out for these substances, for these, ideas inside of the text. Sure, ask a question.
Yeah, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yeah,
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, so like, what are some good habits that you can build, like, to be an actor, like, like as your daily routine, like, what good habits are good for
So
some? starting out?
Sure. First, like read and watch. So read good books, read good plays, read great plays, read great literature, and watch great movies. And also, if you want, listen to great songs. That will be also the trinity that kind of closes the practice, right? So because when you start reading it also and listening and seeing it, that is the moment where you start picking up the urgency. Because if you read something, it kind of stimulates your senses, your imaginarium, and you start understanding, oh, how can I play it, right? You read it out loud. You start kind of creating for yourself the habit of, going through text, watching a movie scene, maybe transcribing it, and maybe recording the next day how you would perform it, after having a couple of thoughts about that. And starting to picking up the habit more than, I should be an actor tomorrow, or tomorrow I start practicing acting, right? It's start practicing creativity, start practicing getting inspired, start practicing getting involved, getting purposefully involved. That means that you have a reason, a desire, a taste for what you want to do. And therefore, I want to recreate that desire, that taste. It's like a chef, right? A chef, why is he so obsessed, with cooking? Why is a chef so obsessed with, spices and herbs? Because he wants to create a unique taste. He has a mission to show the world that, his creations are the best, that he's the best chef in the world, right? That's this aspiration of really, I want to dominate in a gently way, and I want to show what I'm capable of, right? I don't want to ridicule everybody. I don't want to, it's not about my ego here. It's just the satisfaction of my taste. And so therefore, create that taste before you start talking about the practice. Try to kind of understand what type of style you want to see yourself in, what kind of movies you picture yourself in. Read about those movies, read about the screenplays, start exercising with the dialogue, see if it's fitting, and kind of when you develop a taste, then you will create, that automatically will trigger, what? I want to see if I could, show that also to other people. So maybe I'm looking for an agency now. And so what do I need in order to get into an agency? Well, I need a self-tape. I need some headshots. I need a couple of scenes, right? I need to record some acting. Yeah. So I need to take acting classes, and then I record those scenes. And it gets more and more and more. You see where I'm going with this? Does this help? I guess so. I guess so. Sure. Victoria, please.
Yes, I have a question too. Again about the redemption. I didn't understand what you meant with find a redemption at the end. Did you mean a solution for the character, or could you explain it again?
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good metaphor. I love that right away, like a solution for the character. You see, in the beginning, I said, I want to give you something else, right? Not the usual chit chat about auditions. Yeah, start strong, finish strong, or, look, everybody. There's like, this is, it's besides being true or not true, it's, over here at the COACHMC studio, guys, maybe you got this by now. We're working with a lot of, pockets of creativity. Everything is allowed. Like Stanislavski said, right? Like everything that helps your purpose, by all means, take it in. Whatever inspires you, take that in. That's totally fine. I'm not giving you, I wouldn't have the right to, and not the legitimacy to, and quite honestly, I don't want to say, this is the amount, or this is the thing, but what's always true is that there are some patterns, that, and they must be recognized. And for some strange reason, these patterns, they do work. Like there are some things, there's like an eternal justice about a good beat, about a good rhythm. You feel it's always there, right? So the solution for a character is, of course, also to bring everything to an end, to bring this moment to an end. right? To find your redemption with it. Redemption, son, right? It's to find your healing, your with it, and to also allow yourself to let go of the conflict, because you're coming into the room to solve a conflict, to solve a problem. You know, that's a beautiful mindset also, because it kind of you know, it kind of reduces the amount of stress, or I feel like it does to me, when I'm not, oh, I have to nail this audition. No, 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 no. I have to solve the conflict. Hey, I got an important mission today, right? So I can't wait to do that, because I love conversations. I love conflicts. I love contrapositions. I mean, actors get paid to look out for conflict. This is what we do as actors. This is the crazy stuff that I'm talking about when we're talking about acting. As actors, we get paid to search out for contrast, conflict, and contrast. And the whole time when we're in the room, it's all about searching out for trouble. In real life, we try to avoid trouble all the time and constantly, which is quite crazy. So when you are playing, so when you are acting, when you are pretending per se, or impersonating another character that lives under imaginary circumstances, you are actually realer than in your real life. Because now you can do what's actually natural and human about you, searching for conflict, because this is biologically how we were built. Because if we're not searching for conflict, if we're not clashing against the forces of nature, we would have stayed in the cave. No, we search for fire, we search for shelter, we search for better distribution, we search for more protection. And this is a good thing, even though some, you know, climate activists sometimes want to claim us to be demons and bad people and you are the parasites of this earth. They don't really understand the faculty of speech. This one thing that they use to kind of inflame a debate that is true and necessary, absolutely vital. Of course, we need to talk about nature. We can't just infect nature with bad stuff and pretend everything is okay. Of course not. But that doesn't mean that we are bad and that we should be eradicated from planet Earth, because our will to search, our will to speak, our will to invent, to create, and to find a solution to things is the very essence of life, guys. So there is no greater outcome, and this is like a universal law, and it will always be applicable. Everything in an audition room, in life, in a scene, in this conflict situations happens in this way. You come in with a strong intention, you clash, and then there is a resolution, a solution to it. Your solution for the character at the end of the scene. Yes, Tony.
I wanted to ask you a question. What is your opinion on networking and nepotism in the industry?
Yeah, you know, it's like nepotism, you mean in a way that it's unhealthy, or that people are helping themselves out generally? Because there are two ways of nepotism. There's also good nepotism. Of course, there's unhealthy nepotism as well. And that is always what you mean. Yes.
What I mean by nepotism in the industry, I mean, for example, the actors that come from like a lineage of producers, and how do you what do you think about how their approach differs from, you know, those that are trying to break out into the industry? Like how does it differ?
You know, it's actually a good question, because there is a lot of, I think, also you know, misbelief about how the acting life once you are in the industry actually looks like, right? Or how the acting life, what is it like? What do we do on a daily basis? And the crazy thing about, you know, entertainment in itself, like not only the acting life, also, you know, record labels, you know, when you are a recording artist, when you are a painter, right, and or a fashion designer, it's like in the entertainment industry, usually the people that are financing the projects, running the industry, they not necessarily have a very granular knowledge about what the acting life looks like, or the creation of a character looks like. They don't necessarily understand what's going on emotionally, right, and viscerally with you when you are creating a character, when you're on set, when you're performing, when you're singing. They have a very left brain type of approach for sure, right? They need to kind of bring in a different game. And for many years, I believed that to be a problem, right? I was like, oh, they are the enemies, or not necessarily enemies. Maybe that's a bit too exaggerated, but in a polemical way, yes. Like I was creating this polarity in my brain that, oh, this is the industry and this is the creator. This is the artist, right? And by no means say, I please don't get me wrong. It's like, I love art. I'm here for the art. This is what made us, right? Art for us is, our enterprise here is dedicated to really kind of, inspire people to create art. And on every level, every art has it's absolutely his right and legitimacy to be there and to blossom, right? If it's not hurting someone on purpose, or it's just maleficent or nefarious, then by all means live it and be it. It will always come into a positive fruition. I firmly believe that. This is not just some spiritual jabba walk, because we're living it. We're the living proof of it. I've never had any master's degree or school degree happening for me. I was always creating art constantly throughout my life, and this is how I got also to fame, to get to know incredible people. But fame or not, getting to know incredible people, getting to, be hired by great people to get into great projects has nothing to do with fame. It's nothing to do with you being perfect. It has nothing to do with you being amazingly connected or anything. It has everything to do with that your value proposition is so much off the fucking charts that there is no way on planet Earth that they can get around you. You have to become a linchpin. You have to create your purple cow and therefore become the leader of your own little crazy tribe of followers that believe in your way of, living art. Because people don't necessarily get the process, of course. Like we said also in the duel before, the process, nobody gives a shit about your process. Nobody wants to hear your motivation, anything. And here, again, don't get me wrong, I know how important it is. Yeah, I myself sometimes you get entrenched with your art. You love your art. You want to defend your art, right? So you do everything that's necessary. But sometimes that blocks us from understanding the more fundamental lesson. That the art takes care of you if you take care of the art. Don't get offended if someone doesn't get your art. There are millions of reasons for it. It's probably not even personal at all. Don't let the energy flow into the wrong direction and focus on something that is not helping you to evolve. Because if you focus on frustration, if you focus on the negative details, if you focus on, I'm not saying you doing that, please don't get me wrong. This is generally what I get a lot of questions, kind of in that, ballpark where you at right now. So I'm just addressing this also on a larger scale so everybody kind of gets something out of it. Because, and that's true. I mean, yes, there are nefarious players, shady players, strange players in this game, for sure, in every game. Everywhere there's fame, everywhere there's money, everywhere there's attention. That's the currency of the 22nd century, right? Like Warren Buffett said, and 23rd, that's attention. Everybody that wears a lot of attention, there's a lot of money, there's a lot of interest, a lot of questionable people, let's say it like that. And so, yeah, okay, assess it, and so what? Because you can't get around it, but you can do one thing. It's like your fortress is your art. And if you really become a linchpin, your art becomes, undestroyable, and therefore you become undestroyable.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Yes.
Because that was a problem that I was, facing, seeing it in the industry. And, I've met people that have tried to, break out, and then, to hear their problems, I appreciate, you putting it to me like that. Thank you.
Of course, you're more
very most welcome. Could I leech up that question?
Absolutely, sir. Mind? Of course.
Yeah, so what you said about nepotism and stuff like that, in order to combat that kind of stuff, is it necessary to how am I gonna explain this? Change yourself in the process as you're kind of trying to navigate into the industry. So I'm not saying don't become yourself, but I mean create yourself in the process where you give yourself more opportunities.
Yes, absolutely. No. So there's one thing, don't misunderstand the concept that only because I'm really dedicated and passionate and absolutely obsessed about my art, and I truly believe in the creation, like Taoists, right? In Taoism, they believe that any spiritual animated being that creates something else, that something, that object, even if it's not animated, has a spirit nonetheless. So understand that every process of work, you will always have to fight against obstructions and everything in order to come clean with your product, right? Even if you have the most delightful and immaculate thought on planet Earth, and the masters of the past have shown us, through these scriptures, like the purer your thought, the more enemies you will have, right? So therefore, of course, but that is just an indicator that it works, my friend. That is just an indicator that you are triggering a reaction. That means that your product has something to show. It needs some tweaking. It needs some improvement. It needs to be stabilized, right? There needs to be structure, maybe an overarching narrative that is funny and compelling, but already you have a core. You have that deet, 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 deet. You have that pulse. And as soon as you have a pulse, people recognize you. As soon as they recognize you, of course, you will also have haters, or there's nepotism going on. But it's in my experience, and I've met a lot of incredible creators all over the planet, believe me, if you really focus on your art and you just focus generously on creating, producing, and of course doing also the smart work. I'm not saying that namaste, you sit in your private room, right, and you have your Tibetan bowls going on, and then you just create art. No, of course you need to make sure that your art receives also the displayed value that you deem like is the necessary, like you invested a lot of work, a lot of hours in your art, so you want it also to be perceived, right? So you make sure that it gets out there, that it gets displayed, that it gets heard, that it gets seen. So of course there is logical and structural work that you need to do, and you have to deal with the structural stuff, the transactional and technical aspects of the industry. But I always believe that if you work for yourself on great products will come into fruition and will give you success.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. What was I going a bit off charts? But was that an answer to your question?
No, yeah, no, I understood, because what I was trying to get at the heart of it is because you seem like a very deep thinker, and the essence of my question was with the nepotism and stuff like that. Sometimes, if you're a certain personality type, like an introvert or an extrovert, obviously that contributes to your success. But what I'm saying is, if you're naturally, like me personally, I'm naturally introverted, and obviously I know that there's certain qualities on the other end of the distribution that will contribute to success in the industry. So like social connection, like they said, and having certain friends and stuff like that. If you're naturally not like that, then it's necessary to kind of develop those qualities and really just go outside your comfort zone and then create yourself or recreate yourself, because it's just
Yes.
necessary to
Yes.
success
Now,
in the industry.
yes. Now you said it, because again, like I was saying before, it's an epiphany. It's in a transformation. And yes, sometimes we need to take on some skill sets that weren't there before. But again, why are we here? Because we want to explore. So if we see, okay, yeah, you assess it, and that's beautiful. It's like, okay, there are some qualities required to play this game, and you have to go to a certain extent also like into a direction where you don't necessarily feel like you wanted to do this stuff. But of course you kind of draw your line in the sand, is like, this is where I go. I don't want to like bribe people or go or do offense. But what I want to do is that still people know who I am. So I go to networking events. I make sure that I have a script ready for myself. I assess the situation, how nervous I am, usually, blah, blah, blah. So I warm up like an actor would do, and treat this whole thing like an audition. Treat this whole thing like being on stage, and using it as if, like you were playing a character, right? And this is what we all do. Like networking, of course, it's in an oversketched, oversized type of our personality. It's not necessarily how we always are, because we want to make sure that people get our product right away. And it has both aspects, like a very transactional aspect, and I agree with that. And sometimes that is frustrating and a bit unnecessary, because I think a lot of big chunks of our community could be a bit more communicative, a bit more helpful. It could be more of a like an Aiden type of structure. But I always think, but I still like feel like that you will always meet the creators you are intended to meet. You're always in the place where you need to be, and at the time you need to be there. So like I said, I believe this carpet of ours is perfect, and just take what you can do out of that moment, and like add what you have as a skill set, of course. And if you need to step up your game and make it a fun play, by all means do that. It's okay. Everybody does, right? Everybody finds his way. It's not always like, even for me, yes, I'm more of an outgoing guy. Okay, you can see that, right? I'm a bit more, but that doesn't mean that I don't feel uncomfortable when I'm networking and I'm out there and just exposing myself, right? I maybe sometimes need a drink too. My wife sometimes pushes me just in the cross and like, go, come on, we don't have much time. We need to go to the next one. And it's like, okay, all right. And then usually after a couple of minutes, it's fine. And because I remember also what we talked about today, it's like, the emotional state before is not the same emotional state. So don't worry in the middle. It's going to be something else. You're fighting for, the solution of your character. And that's all good. You do it your own way. You practice and you get better at it. And you will find your way, even if it's an introvert way, a calm way, a smooth way. You work on your elegance, your own way of handling this nicely. Look, I show you a drawing that I did the other day. And here, maybe you can see that there is, we have a trajectory, and that trajectory, that is our North Star, that is our Polaris for our product. We want to go there. We go there our way. It's our way of telling the story, and every way is interesting. All right, guys, I guess that's it for today. So if you don't have any further questions, I really enjoyed this audition tip. The number 2, volume 2. In the third episode, we're going to talk a little bit about what's happening in the aftermath of the audition. And I'm really excited about that one because it's going to be, about the slate. It's going to be, it's about other aspects that are super, super interesting, like a bit more transactional aspects also, but that are definitely adding something to, to the way you get perceived. To the way people, like that last aroma that you leave. So don't miss out on the next one. It's going to be March the 16th, 2024. Register now for free. And also follow us, of course, on YouTube, on Instagram, Twitter. We are all out there, the COACHMC or the COACHMC studio. Come also over to the open class doodles, where we have tactical doodles also, where we talk about different topics, also music, creation of songs, songwriting. So there's a lot for you creators out there to get new info nuggets, some pieces of wisdom, and to insert them into your creative toolbox to have the most splendid journey on towards your Polaris on this trajectory of success. So thank you so much for hanging out with us. You can also subscribe to our Telegram channels to get infos and little like personal stuff, some outtakes, some funny stuff as well, and some also daily thoughts if you're interested in that. And by all means, if you want to work on your performance, if you want to check out our acting program, if you want to kind of improve your public speaking skills, or you want to record a monologue, adding something to your show reel, check us out on readytoperform.com. Send us an email. Let's talk about in a free trial session what your value proposition is and how we can potentially help you to spice it up and to increase the level of remarkable output. And then we jump into a new creative adventure. I would be more than delighted to do so with you guys. Otherwise, we see us on the 16th of March, exactly the same time on this channel. And now you're ready to perform.